Go ahead. Okay, for people joining this live stream, this is a design review about sound and vision, sound and images and video for Wolfram language version 12.3. All right, so let's see. Why am I seeing this example data? What is this an example of?
This is the evolution of the Rule 30. We had a Rule 30 wave in our example data in the layout. Now, if you call, not that, if you say video of that string, you're going to get that video.
I bet that this has smart quotes in it, but otherwise, let's see what you get. By the way, I assume that the video player is now genuinely in line. No, it's not. What's
Next version. There has been great progress from the front end for having library link support, and video is going to be the first user of it. But not this version. Next.
Where's this top cut off?
It's not cut off. I can pad it if you think that's better, but it's there. It's just a quick time.
That's cool, but what am I seeing here? I know it's Rule 30, but I mean, I'm asking, what is the technology that I'm seeing here?
I used video generator, but really we wanted a quick short video in the layout that we can use for documentation examples and whatnot. So that's just that addition. We need more complicated examples that we're going to add to data repository. Now that there is zip file support for assets that are distributed with that data repository, that's a new feature, and we're going to use it to add examples of people and cars and whatever that we can demo our capabilities.
I just think it's a weird example because it has very sharp black and white pieces. I mean, I'm a big fan of the picture, but I'm just saying
it could
might be a little bit of a weird case. What's that?
Could be useful to demonstrate structural operations on videos rather than focusing on the content.
Fair enough. Fair enough, because it has a definite, you can tell which part of the video you're in by how far down it's growing.
Yeah.
That helps. No, I agree. I mean, you could also do one that is more like a snowflake growth cellular automaton growing from the center.
Sure.
Might also be. I can give you one of those if you want one. I'm sure we've made.
This is just the sort of equivalent of Lena.
Right. Some of the ones that grow like this are kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of easily see what's happening, and let's see. Well, we can generate one of these. This is easy. I mean, just go to the cellular automaton documentation. Perhaps we can get this done offline, but this should be super easy to do.
Yep, I will get something. Yeah, I agree. This is nice.
Just for fun, something. Well, this one may flash a lot because it's got maybe not. But just to get some sense of how. Let me see the workflow actually of how would I turn this into a video.
You want to video generator has one example that shows that, and that's tentative because we have. So you have to open the source notebook. But that's tentative because we're adding an argument that says the function that generates the frames, what are the variable, what are the values that are passed to the function? So instead of it always being the time that it was the case before, now we are adding this start and end third argument. So up in this usage box, there is a third argument, start and end. So for the duration 0 to time, we can say start passing values start to end sampled in that interval. to the function. So I can say, it's specifically useful if you want to do intervals of 1, like pass all the integers to the function, for instance. So that comma, and then the 30 should be hash. I'll make that whole thing a function. Second argument is the duration. Let's say we want it for 2 seconds.
Okay.
So 15 frames per second, and then 1,30.
Okay, actually I have to do one thing here, which is I should change the size here. Let's see.
And
This
probably you have to do round of hash because that has to be an integer.
But why? Well, I mean, I can run this while we're talking, but why? This isn't quite going to do the right thing because this needs to turn into a center array. Okay, we're spinning. Why are we spinning? And why don't we a progress indicator?
So progress indicator should be enabled. So there is clearly something else that is going on there. Is this prototype?
Yes.
Yep. I'm not sure how the situation is. Would you mind running like the first example in the doc notebook just to make sure that stuff is not broken in prototype?
Which documentation?
The video generator.
Well, I would if I could interrupt anything, but I can't.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. That's disconcerting. Yeah, it looks like there is some issue with the prototype.
Okay, I'll have to kill it and restart. Meanwhile, we have questions from Ethan. What about 3D video? My gosh, our users are so, they expect everything, but do we have anything like that?
Not yet. I've looked at it a couple of times, but there is so much for 2D videos.
What kind of format is that backed by? Because I assume it needs to be in some kind of file format.
I actually don't remember. I don't know.
All right, let's start up the prototype build again. Actually, Ethan is saying he uses 3D videos all the time on Oculus, so there must be a format for that. What on earth is it? Because that definitely wasn't standardized. I mean, the more common thing is you just use some I
think that the 3D format is just 2 left and right for Oculus, right? It's not.
I see. It's not a genuine 3D geometry. Ethan is commenting and kill it in the terminal without killing the front end. That's an interesting and good point. Life-changing. Okay. There was a question here about, is there still no way to crop a video spatially?
We could. Video frame map can map a video crop and image crop over frames.
Yes. Well, that presumably would work. I mean, if I just say video of this thing here, and then I say video frame map of image crop. What are the arguments of image crop?
Of slot, comma, 100, 100.
Right. It's very fuzzy, but it did that.
It's fuzzy because you enlarged it. It's 100 by 100 images.
Yeah, I understand.
But as well, the encoding is going to cause some fuzziness anyways for this kind of a, as you said, black and white video.
Right. Image assemble in multiple videos.
Video map and the family, video frame map, video map time series, all of those are being updated to take multiple video sources. So one can do image compose, image assemble, again, very similar to what you're calling there, just that slot is going to take a list of images in.
I see. But what about how do you conform? I mean, if they don't time conform, you're out of luck.
We have discussed how we conform in size, and there's a new option we're proposing, frame fitting. I'm open to name proposal for that. For now, for temporal fitting, we are using our own defaults, not providing any options or arguments, which is typically padding with fixed frame in time, the video tracks, and silent for audio tracks. We may think about providing options for changing the defaults in the future.
One note I want to add, we do our best to guarantee that things that you are assembling or joining or whatever are the temporal alignment is respected. So for example, if you have two videos of different frame rate, the second one will be, or the one with the lower frame rate will be resampled to the frame rate of the one with the higher frame rate. So the frames are extracted at the same times.
But how do you align the zero of time? It's just assumed to be when each video starts, or is there an offset?
If the tracks are not aligned in terms of start offsets, then it is just padded.
Okay. I'm sorry, but how do we, in the metadata for a video, we have a start time that is different from its absolute start time? I mean, that's different from its in video. How do we
specify? There is no notion of absolute time that the video was captured at, but there is an offset that you can say this video starts a few seconds late.
Okay.
And that's when we do the padding that Carlo mentioned.
How do you specify the offset?
It's a metadata, as you said. It's stored as a start time, and that's another addition in this version. Our import is being updated to provide us with that information from metadata.
So you'll have to extract the specific bit of the information, which is not displayed by default because it's an expensive operation to compute. And I think it might be exact track durations, if I am not mistaken. No, with information, video, comma, property. And I might be mistaken about the correct name, but I can.
Exact track durations?
Durations, I think. I can go fetch up the correct name.
But that's going to give us the durations. We have exact time boundaries and track start times being added to import as elements.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't remember the correct name.
What was the name?
Exact
time boundaries is one, and you have to pass it to import. I don't think it's accessible in information, Carlo.
Prototype, we should have everything in information that is an import.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's coming. So, okay, so this thing here is the generic information about a video, all metadata. So the video itself is not part of this.
Yes.
Bit rate, bits per second. Okay. Okay, well, it looks cool. All right. Video generator, that's the thing you were just mentioning, but I wasn't really internalizing how it worked.
Correct.
Let me go back to that. Video generator. Okay. So the basic idea of video generator is you have a function. This is like the analog of table, but for a video.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement? It's also the analog of kind of play or something.
I think it's kind of closer to play and array than table, but yeah, that kind of thing.
Well, except that the model here takes as a pure function.
It doesn't need to be a pure function. It can be a function.
Well, but can it be a function? Can it be some expression that depends on t?
It needs to be an expression that, for example, you can define it with down values. It doesn't need to be explicit function. It could be f of something.
The answer is
as
no,
long as you defined.
Just as array takes a function.
Yes.
Just as a, table takes an
okay.
expression,
Fine.
array takes a function.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think T there is wrong. We should rename that variable to duration because it's
I
really
think we should
generating
too, because I think it's very
model.
confusing. Now
I
that I
agree.
see it here,
Yep.
it looks super confusing. It kind of looks like a variable T.
I
And
agree.
it's like,
Right. Okay. But maybe you should say video generator of fun, comma, duration or something for the function.
yeah, I think it should be too.
The only
I think
thing is that model can be other things, like a single image or a list of images that we iterate through. But I agree, the function case is really important, that probably the usage box should immediately include it.
Fine. Okay. So now what's new and different here? So this has always been that duration, but then, and when did it sample? I mean, I don't understand what,
So the function used to get values from 0 to t sampled at the specified frame rate. We have some defaults for frame rate. You can change it. Now, if in the case of that cellular automaton evolution, you really want to pass values from 1 to n to the function and not 0 to 1, but still generate it for whatever duration, you can now specify 1, 30 in that third argument. And that duration is sampled with respect to the duration and frame rate.
but so to me, it would be nice if you could say start, end, and then a step there, because, if we assume that the model function is a pure function, so to speak, then, you wouldn't have to, right now in that cellular automaton thing, I suspect we were goofily sampling, hundreds and hundreds of times and just rounding them all to the same value. Am I making sense?
You do. I propose that as well, but then the arguments are conflicting. The duration, frame rate, and then the start and step are not always going to give us, it end up being conflicting.
Why?
With start and step, you generate so many frames, and with T frame rate combination as well, you specify how many frames to be generated total. And if those two numbers don't match, right, what do we do?
We think about it for a second, okay? So the duration, you're saying, given the duration and the frame rate option value, right?
Yep.
Which says there's a frame rate option value, right? Which can be set to like 30 frames a second or whatever.
Yes.
And given that, that tells you the integer number of frames that you're going to generate, right?
Correct. Okay.
So now that final argument is simply mapping kind of what is the data range, what are the values that you want to, within that duration. You are initially saying map that duration in equally spaced bins between start and end.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So that implies that given a frame rate, there's a delta t there. Okay, so I don't understand why there's a problem. Because basically, if I give you a big crunchy delta t that is many frame rate delta t's, just be happy. You have to do fewer evaluations. Right? I'm not saying you change the frame rate. I'm saying that there are situations where you're doing discrete things where you can sample it once and lay it down 100 times in the actual video.
Okay. Carlo, right? You disagree with that? I see what you're saying.
So you're asking essentially about caching an operation that would happen at non-rounded times.
That's correct. I'm saying, let's say that the video you want to make, like in this, in the example of the cellular automaton thing, okay? It, in the end, a video, as in a video encoder, is going to be picking up the video, every 30th of a second or whatever it is, right?
Correct.
And it has no choice about that. But what I'm saying is the actual video might only change every second. See what I'm saying? So don't.
I think one way to think about it, Stephen, is that if you specify start and step, you specify a frame rate because you specify duration. Then you specify frame rate again, and now you're going to merge the two.
I know, but the whole point is that the frame rate that you're specifying is the frame rate for the video encoder. It's not the, it's the frame rate at which you're going to be sampling it for the sake of painting it on your screen. It's not the rate that you're sampling it with respect to, the underlying generation of the thing.
So you're proposing essentially having two separate frame rates, one for generation and one for saving.
Yeah, because I think about the cellular automaton case. You do not want a frame rate in which every frame of the cellular automaton is necessarily a single frame of the final video.
That's right.
Right? It will be way too fast.
Yes.
I mean, that's not necessarily true, right? If you set a low enough frame rate, then it doesn't really matter. You can do exactly the same.
How does that work in a video encoder? Does that work in a video encoder?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, if you set a low frame rate, you just generate at that frequency.
I understand that, but I would suspect that your average player, if I said, "Oh, I'm not playing at 30 frames a second, I'm playing it at 0.2 frames per second," does it really work?
With the experiments that we've done, yes.
Really? Okay.
I've tested up to 1 frame per second. I haven't gone fractional. I haven't checked that.
Right. Well, okay. I would not trust standard video players to be able to deal with things that aren't.
I mean, that's reasonable.
So
just to give you one more bit of context, this kind of syntax is kind of inspired by the array one, where the third argument does pretty much the same thing as this.
Okay. The third argument of array usually has a start, doesn't have an end.
Could have an end. I think we added that later than the initial introduction.
But then it has a delta, whatever, as well, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. It has a start and an end. It has
I think there for the same reason, because there you really just always generate end samples. That's the third usage. The simple
I see. Because there's no intrinsic physical frame rate underneath. It's just integer values.
What you're requesting, Stephen, to me seems like table of the function start and step, and then we pass that list as we do in image 1, image 2 model case to video generator, and then resample that to get the desired frame rate.
Yes.
Yeah, it does make sense to me.
Okay. All right. Hey, there's a number of interesting comments on our live stream here. Steve Coast points out, it used to be the case long ago in a version far, far away that if there was a series of graphics in successive cells, that you could roll up those cells and make an animation out of those cells. We've lost that functionality. It occurs to me that we could perfectly well, at least in the suggestions bar, have such functionality. I mean, it's easy to do. You just use list animate, right? Or actually, what is the best modern way to do that?
Animated image.
Animated image as well. Yep, that's the more modern one.
Why do we have two?
List animate has the play pause, all the decorations around the actual content. Animated image is just an animation of the frames.
So, I mean, the question is, it does not seem like an unreasonable thing to be able to do. I'm not sure that in modern times it's the most important, because, I mean, basically, to have generated it in modern times, you'd be dealing with essentially, if I say do print, I don't know what right thing is, style, oh gosh, I don't even know how to do this. And I say from letter number. Wow, this is kind of a messy way to do it. Functional programming is much better here, to put it mildly. But anyway, I10 or something. Okay, great. And now I select this range of cells, and I'd like to be able to say animate that range of cells. So in other words, if I instead of doing do, I do table here, you are saying if I say animated image here,
probably want to take the printout.
Yes, I do. Oh, come on, guys. Come on, you should imagify them. You should imagify them.
I
Do I have
actually
to say
think we do.
rasterize?
That's definitely. Oh,
You don't want the map, you just want at.
Oh, yeah, there. Why didn't that auto rasterize?
I thought animated image was dealing with any kind of expression. I'll look at it again.
Okay. But that's working very nicely. But now the question is, if you have a range of cells, should you be able to animate them? If nothing else, for old time's sake. I mean, you certainly could have a right-click menu that lets you do that. Maybe this is not the right group to discuss that. Comments?
Doesn't seem a modern thing to want to do, but I don't know. I cannot immediately.
Okay, let's
think about
can we put that, if Scott, if you can put that in the user assistance meeting, and we'll ask the people there. Okay.
If you don't mind going back quickly to the video generator thing, thinking more about it, I do have a small objection. So let's say that the function uses the specification start and offset that determines the frame rate for the generation, and then the frame rate option to sample it and plop it into a video, as you are proposing.
Yep.
Now, your function wants to take round numbers, right? So you say f duration time from 0 to whatever with a step of 1. So then you produce a function that essentially has a domain from between 1 to 100. Now, does the frame rate from the video generator option just sample this as a 100 seconds long video?
No.
How?
No. Look. I'm confused here. The second argument is the duration. So
Yes.
the duration might be 5 seconds, for example.
Okay, so we take the frame rate relative to the duration. Okay, fine. I think I know how to do it. Perfect.
Okay. All right. A number of other comments that exist here. Comment about spherical video. What do we understand about that? Do we know anything about that?
We'll look into all of these variations.
Okay.
Give us this release and maybe event 13 to wrap up 2D video.
Comment that we should make our own video format. You know, I'm not encouraged by what is the variable?
VP9. I don't think it doesn't sound like a good idea.
I mean, just we could join this zoo. Why are there so many? Can anybody explain that to me?
Well, some of them were clearly introduced for a better life with all of these gigantic videos. So like really H.264, H.265 family are shrinking the file size dramatically, and they're nice. But I really as well think a lot of them are coming from devices at some point when there were really no single popular format.
I see. It's not like VHS and Betamax. It's rather more than that.
Yeah. Also, there is not an equal share between all of these, right? It's not like all of these are equally popular.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Your player, if you only have QuickTime on your system, it supports very few codecs. And the same happens to be the Windows player. It's very few codecs. And the web browser too, very few codecs.
Well, isn't it nice that we can support so many? Now all we need is an in-notebook, fully functional in-notebook player, and we'll be in great shape. But I assume that the pop-out player does correctly support all these codecs, right? Or is that my
really
system pop-out?
No, this is your OS. That's.
I see.
But if you right-click and say minimal or basic appearance, then we can play any of those that you had listed under encoders. In fact, under decoders.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So we've successfully got successfully curated all those encoders.
Yep.
Yeah, but this
What?
isn't this isn't the player, Stephen. Don't get too excited.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fine. Question from Ethan: can I stream frames into a video, e.g., append frame? Not
Other
yet.
outside of video generator? No.
You can join videos.
But that's expensive if you want to do it one at a time, one
Yeah.
frame at a time.
Right. Yeah, I think you'd have to have some other way to view the video. So it's a little bit unclear how that works. So I suppose the idea would be if you are separately looking at a file and, okay, so this is the scenario, I think. We're writing out a file with a video in it, and that file is progressively getting longer and longer. But we have something else that's watching that file. I think that's the scenario. I don't think we currently have a way to do that because we have to write the file. I mean, you can't do that. It's like video. That's why you end up with these weird things that's saying you have a damaged video and so on, because the video encoding formats aren't just frame by frame, right?
Yes.
Okay, comment from Harry here. What happens to variable frame rate videos? Heavily used apparently in screen capture applications. Interesting question.
Is that very high? I didn't get it. Is that
No,
very high
variable
frame rate?
variable frame rate. So I imagine like this screen capture, for example, that's happening. I don't even know how this works. For whatever it is, the VNC like thing that is, that we're running through Zoom and through all these other layers here, that the claim would be that is using some kind of variable frame rate.
I don't think I've seen that. Variable bit rate we have seen. Variable frame rate I haven't seen. I'll look into that as well.
Look it up. It's an interesting question whether if I say, what is it called? Capture. What is the screen capture called?
Image capture or
screen
current screen image.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Current screen image. What the heck is this? Wow, it's asking me to do all kinds of stuff here.
Interestingly, it has already returned.
Well, it's already returned, but it returned something blank.
Oh, it's probably some other desktop? Who knows?
No, because all my desktops have things on them.
I have no idea.
I don't know what this is doing. Oh, I see. I have to check a button here. Will not be able to record the contents of your screen until it is quit. Wow, I didn't know this required that. I wonder whether that's documented. I wonder whether that's new in some new version of the operating system. Scott, that's another thing for you. Can you make sure that gets tracked down?
Sure.
That's very weird. Why is that looking blue? Oh, because it's some kind of link? What is this? Okay. I'm very confused by all of this. Okay. Yeah, Sandra's saying Mac OS permissions. Yeah, that's right, but I'm just surprised it's changed. Okay. Steve is mentioning, pretty sure GIF uses variable frame rate. You can say how long each frame should exist for. That may be true for a GIF. I mean, it's a very primitive format because it's not doing any interframe compression, right? It's just taking.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's probably
and on that we can import frame durations for GIF and other image formats, animated image formats, but
And video
we
formats
haven't
as well.
For video, all the timestamps you're saying we can get.
Yeah, we should be able to get all the timestamps.
I haven't done it, but the one thing we cannot do now is to display them at different durations. Like the animated image averages all the durations and come up with a uniform frame rate to display that. But yeah.
Right. So animated image probably needs to be updated to deal with this variable frame rate thing.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Ethan, you might want to stream an image created in a loop into a nice video without having to export individual frames. Stream an image created in a loop.
That's kind of what video generator is supposed to do, right? You just have to reframe it from a loop to something that gets past that time parameter.
Okay, Sandra is complaining about something. I love the way that people complain about things that I predict they're going to complain about. Says that it doesn't know how to extract the nth frame in a movie, in a video.
Quantity n comma frames.
The default.
Yeah, but that should be documented at least both in note and examples.
I understand that it's documented, but so this is what is it called? Video frame.
Video extract frames.
So this can, if I say, well, frame 200, I bet it's not going to even interpret that correctly.
200 frame or 200 frames is going to be no.
Yeah, but you see, that's very weird to say 200 frames here.
Yep, yep. Okay, that's outside. Let's say 20.
Fine. Okay, but so that is the 20th frame, but that is a really, that is a very, very, very obscure way to do that.
I agree. Roger brought it up as well. I don't think we came up with any better way.
Can we look at the syntax again here?
Sure.
Okay. So it's a list of frames, a single frame, a list of frames. I mean, we could do the rather ugly thing of putting it in another level of list.
No, let's not.
Well, we need a way to do this because this is goofy right now. This is really goofy.
I agree. Typically, when you say 20 frames, you think it's the first 20 frames or something like that.
I know. That's what we had thought we were going to do. And you guys talked me out of that. That's what I wanted to do.
I still think that the common case is not the number frame, because progressively people are going to work with longer and longer things, and you're not going to keep track of individual integer frames.
But it depends what you're doing. I mean,
it does. I agree. But if you've captured the video, you're not going to keep track of the individual frames. If you generated it, yeah, maybe you do actually.
Well, I could imagine, as Sandra is commenting, for scientific applications, I could imagine that, yes, you actually do care because, you realize that some event happened, you detect that some event happened at frame 20,003.
Right.
And now you want to go look at the frames right around there.
Yeah, I still think we made a right judgment call in that the time code, people usually give time codes. Like if you look at a YouTube video or something like that, what frame should you start in on? It's not going to be, well, no,
I know it's not the frame
1259. It's, it's time code, like 34 seconds in or something.
Maybe we should have a different name.
We have some construct that represents like an nth element rather than n.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, something like an ordered quantity.
But it's
the only thing we need is some kind of wrapper that tells us that this is.
No, it's the opposite of scaled.
Yes.
And quantity is a type of wrapper, but it feels odd.
By the way, scaled at 0.7 would be a nice thing to have here.
Okay,
Give me
I
a
agree.
frame.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yep, everywhere scaled could be supported.
I mean, maybe we should have a separate function called video numbered frame or something. I'm telling you, people are going to want this.
Just for this frame extraction, fine. But then there are a lot of other functions that take time specification. We don't want
Like what?
all of those duplicated. Like video split. There we support as well what second or what frame to split at.
Yes. I just think this quantity frames is really horrible. So you've pointed out maybe we need a symbolic wrapper for this.
That's all it takes. If we do that, then that will fit everywhere, and we'll probably come up with other things too.
Yeah, I mean, we could obviously have a wrapper like numbered frame.
So that makes it very specific and not so generic.
Yeah, it could be just nth element.
No, because that's too confusing. I mean, let me think about this for a second. So the issue is, for functions that normally take a continuous variable, see, this is a weird case because there's a continuous variable lurking. I mean, it's like data range for array plot or something where there is discrete data, but you are mapping it onto some continuous range. All right, let's keep going with this agenda. We need to come back to this item. Okay. Sandra is commenting that he hadn't noticed this frames thing. Well, and I don't blame him because it's really obscure. Okay, RBS is asking, what's the point of using all these formats because of compression? Absolutely, and compression really matters for videos. Right. Okay. Okay. Let's go on. All right. Generated asset format. Is that what we discussed? We just discussed generated asset location last time.
Correct. And this is a proposal to specify, to be able to specify I want an MP4.
Yeah, even though in principle it doesn't matter because you're just going to be reading it in here, but if you need it for some external purpose, you might care about that asset type.
Yep.
I don't disagree. Video stream.
Capture is coming from screens,
What's the difference between
webcam.
video record and video capture?
There is no video capture yet. We talked about having user interface functions for video capture, video screen capture. Those are coming in the next iteration. Video record is going to be the programmatic way that you say, I have a stream, a video stream connected to my screen or my webcam, and then you can run video record to start recording that into a file.
So I'd like to remind you of something which we've never built out, which is this client value concept. Okay, so the issue is you're going to measure magnetic field on your phone with a magnetometer. Okay, what can you measure? Right, one thing you could do is say, get me the instantaneous magnetic field right when I run this function. Another is put me up a user interface, which when I press the button measures the instantaneous magnetic field. Another is make me something which will record, a time series of magnetic fields from the time I press go to the time I press stop. Right, and we have a framework for thinking about those three different cases. Does that make sense? And we've never built that out. We started, but it seems like you're going to need the exact same thing here. In other words, and let's see, I guess Ricardo was the person who we had started building that out with, but it's the client value framework, and you should probably look at it. Okay. Do I need to bring it? I mean, it's we really had looked at Let me just see if I can pop it up for a second.
There was also the packet capture. Was that following that framework?
Somewhat. Packet capture has its own separate issues. Yes, it does. It does. That's right. It does more or less follow that framework. Yes, you're absolutely right. Just see if I can pull this up for a second. Oh, how depressing. This stuff is all from 2015 and 2016. Ah, sigh. The good news is we eventually get these things done. The bad news is it sometimes takes a while.
And there is also device framework that doesn't seem too far from all of these either.
Right, but that has read in buffer with instantaneous value of a trailing time series. Record time series. Oh gosh, yes, that's right. Then you have the question of whether you're recording it into a time series or whether you're recording it in just as a sequence of values. Yes?
I would like to. Is it possible for me to have access to some of these notebooks?
Sure. If you ask somebody from project management, they should be able to give you that.
Thanks.
It's in the client value subdirectory, or Scott could just copy the whole thing. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that's right. This was the idea. So when you have a form, right, you can have something which whenever you bring up the form, it has a magnetometer gauge, which shows you all the time. It's like how you can see, an audio gauge. It keeps on showing you the values. And then when you press the button, in this case, it's showing you the magnetometer values in real time on your phone. You press the button, it records the value. See what I'm saying? No?
Yep.
Okay, another case is you have a form, and one of the things it does is as you submit the form, it captures the magnetic field. Another thing is this recorder where you're doing essentially like a time recording, and yeah, there's a no UI case where it just picks up the value. It just does a function call and picks up the value.
Yeah, so with respect to video and audio, this has the additional difference that the single value case is a valid case.
But it's a valid case here as well, isn't it?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. In video and audio, it isn't.
It is in video.
Okay, that's fair.
That would be the image case, right?
Yeah. And in audio, I mean, it sort of actually is. It's the instantaneous pressure. Just not a thing one usually looks at.
Yeah, I guess you could argue that could also be interpreted as the instantaneous buffer.
That's different. Yeah. I mean, yes, but we've identified that
even
separately
the value
from the device framework. Now, I don't see why the value isn't a perfectly valid thing. I mean, it is the instantaneous value of the sound intensity, presumably.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Although there's a question of phase. Well, okay, but I don't think it's completely crazy to do that. Let's see. Okay, let's keep going here. Nick suggests, can quantities be separated into ordinal and cardinal units? Interesting. We don't want to seem too transfinite for people who are just trying to request the 200th frame in a video, but I agree that ordinal quantities is an interesting idea, which we have not really considered. It's another thing, Scott, that's a thing for, I guess, for, where can we put that? Maybe in an ILD meeting, okay?
We will bring up nominal and ordinal scales in visualization next week.
Oh, can you make sure there's somebody from the quantity framework there then? Roger?
Yeah, Jose is well aware of it.
Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, although it's probably, I mean, the content of the quantity stuff is more Michael. I mean, is that going to affect, degrees Fahrenheit versus Kelvins and things, or what?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, there are things like strongly disagree, agree, neutral.
Okay, okay, fine. Oh, I see, nominal in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay, a question here about GPU acceleration, saying video frame map and so on should have a target device option.
That really depends on the encoder that you use. If your encoder, the encoder that you're using is GPU accelerated, then you'll get it. If not, it won't.
But the GPU acceleration you're talking about, Carlo, is only going to be available for encoding and decoding itself, not for the processing.
Yeah, but we don't really have functions that compute arbitrary expressions on GPUs, don't we?
Yet, right?
Yet.
Okay, so it's not a thing so far. I mean, that's the issue is some of these operations that we're doing could presumably be written for GPUs. And once the compiler is up to being able to target for GPUs, which probably won't be that long, that is a realistic thing to do for some of these functions, I would think. Isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, is our internal representation uniform enough that if we did something like a, I don't know, some operation, I don't know, blurring or something, could we do that in one way for all of the import-export formats? In other words, do we have an internal format that is independent of the import-export formats?
No.
So we're operating, every function so then I don't understand actually. Why isn't, then we are compiling all of our operations into things that can be done with essentially libraries that operate with these particular import-export formats. Is that right?
No, I think there is a misunderstanding here. Most operations that we do, we import the frames into the kernel, treat them as expressions, and then write them out.
Yeah, okay.
Some of these operations where we can find some direct translation to library operation, we try to do that, but we're just starting that.
Fair enough. Okay.
Complete coverage at all.
This is kind of true for all out-of-core stuff. Like sometimes there's usually a small set of operations that can be done close to the data source, but it's nowhere near as big as the ones that we usually support.
And yes, it is conceivable, though, to eventually be able to compile an operation and pass that code to the library. So that also happens close to the data source, but we're not doing that yet.
Okay. Why are we calling this video record, not video capture?
Because
it's audio
it doesn't have a user interface. This is the programmatic one.
Oh, I see. But we're going to have a video capture.
Oh, yeah, we will. It's coming.
Okay. All right, okay. So it's the same framework as this client value thing and so on.
Yep.
Sandra is complaining about the bad choice of in the video extract frames, the bad choice of making the default be seconds.
Why? I can't see his comment. Where is it?
Yeah.
It's just a gamble on what will be the most common usage, I guess.
Right.
Right. And I understand that for scientific uses, frames are important.
I sort of understand when you generate them yourself, or you're sort of in very detailed control over everything, you probably think that way more naturally.
Right. Okay, Ethan is commenting, since you're adding net encoders, we'll have ones with multiple ports per channel and track. 12.3 should really have some neural net applications of training 3D convnets on videos. What is this? Well, this is the wrong team to talk about that, but Roger, you're probably the crossover person here.
Yeah, it's those extensions are being added basically. I think that we're focusing on the net encoders, decoders for now.
No, but I think we're also pushing for having some networks in the repository and some examples definitely by the time 12.3 is out. That's the goal.
Oh, okay, that's news to me. Great.
Well, this is okay. All right, video.
But we were also trying to push for this higher, you know, the arrays in the core framework being higher rank.
You mean, okay, well, that's a separate thing. I mean, is
Yes.
that relevant? I mean, I thought we could do any rank. I don't see why it cares. Well, I don't know. All right, let's keep going here. Video time stretch. Is that really okay? Is that something people often want to do? I guess it is a slow motion video, etc. Okay.
Yes, and speed up.
Yeah. Okay.
The boring parts. How many times have you seen people unwrapping and unpacking their nice new toy or assembling it, speeding through the boring parts?
So what is the mapping? How do you specify applies time stretching to video, blah. Let's see.
So the easy case, you just speed up or slow down the whole video with a single factor. But the interesting case is where you want to speed up or slow down just a specific time interval.
Or what happens if you want to smoothly, you know, I don't know that that looks sensible or not, but you know, you want to gradually, you know, you want to have some tanch function or something that specifies the speed up.
We're going to have some transition, some smooth transition that is not customizable in 12.3. And then we're going to have probably options introduced later that would allow for custom transitions.
Well, what's that arbitrary function case?
But then arbitrary function can, exactly as you said, specify whatever function, whatever smooth function or non-smooth function.
Okay.
To speed up and slow down.
But so I don't quite understand. So this is given the function takes in the timestamp as seconds, perhaps.
Yes.
How would you specify that you want to give it as frame number?
So, sorry, we can't, I think, at this point.
So each
and the function has to have some continuity properties. Like if I feed in some random Cantor set or something for how fast I want it to go, you just can't do that because you have to, you know, this is a transformation on the interval. Right?
So the value of the function though is not the target timestamp, is the ratio by which that timestamp will be stretched or that interval will be stretched.
No, I understand. So it's like a metric. It's like a Jacobian or something. It's telling you. So in other words, given an interval, right, you're deforming the interval by, I mean, it's like those you know, weird maps where you emphasize one, you know, country, or what are those called? Chloropleths or something? What are those things called? You know what I mean? Where you're deforming the map of the Earth depending on, you know, which country has the largest number of elephants or something in it.
Yeah.
Cartograms.
I don't think there are requirements of
right.
continuity there, right?
Say it again?
I'm not sure there are requirements of continuity, at least in our specific application. You could have interval, the first interval with a stretch ratio of 1 and the second of 100, and wouldn't really make any difference.
No, I understand, but what you've got is a range and domain. You've got the initial function, right? The initial thing that's going uniformly sampling from 0 to 1. And that's mapping into a thing that samples from, I see, it doesn't need to be from 0 to 1. So it's just taking every element of that input and mapping it to some element of the output.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So in other words,
in fact, that second case is a piecewise specification.
Yep.
It's right. Constant.
Right. So what you're saying is, so the final position that you're at is the integral of, so let's say that your mapping function is f of t or something, then t maps to the integral of f of t.
Yeah, I think that is correct.
integral of f of tau from tau goes up to t.
That sounds correct.
Okay, fine. Okay. Video insert. Okay. Did we not have that before? So that's like putting a header or something, inserting.
Yep, you reviewed that 12.2. It didn't make it, as well
Okay,
as 12, as well as video replace.
Okay. Video join now accepts a list of videos, a padding option. What did it do before? I mean, it should presumably be like join, which is Verogs.
Yeah, which one did we
Both are
implement?
accepted. Initially, it was just var, then we decided as a convenience to also accept a list.
Okay.
I honestly think the other way around, and I wrote my note wrong. I think we only implemented a list of videos accepted in video join.
No, it was the opposite.
No, okay.
Okay. Did we have all this before transcode? What's this? Fitting? What's modes for services?
Modes for services is not going to make it. Facebook, Instagram, you can have ads as well as the main content. And we would like to eventually get those as modes of service in there so that
metadata. It's a metadata tag.
not necessarily, no, that they are specs that are provided by these services. So Facebook says, I want square ad images at that frame rate and so forth. So if we have the most up-to-date spec, we can transcode to that spec.
Wait a minute. This is, they insert. So you're watching a video and suddenly an ad pops up.
Mm-hmm.
So that ad matches the frame rate and things of the ambient video, or that ad is just some other thing that's being played that was just a pure inserted video that the video player is saying, okay, now I'm playing this, let me go to a different thing.
I think typically it's a separate thing that pops up. I wasn't thinking about YouTube specifically, but Facebook, you could have, for instance, you could have main content video as well as ad videos. And typically the aspect ratios, frame rate, and so forth for those ads could be different from the main content.
This is like themes, Stephen. This is
You
sort of one name.
Pinterest.
What?
You misspelled Pinterest here.
Yes.
But that's futurized.
I understand.
Still wrong. But it's
Yes.
like themes. I mean, in many other editing software, if you're gonna sort of upload, to say Facebook or something, they suggest they have they have a ready-made thing, so you don't have to think about it. You don't have to go and read specs.
I understand, and it's the thing you have to upload if you don't want your video cropped in weird ways and so on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so you're saying we have that already, or?
Video transcode, we have. The services that you see, we have as of 12.2, but the modes we don't have, and we're not going to get them in 12.3 either.
Okay.
What is being updated is the bitrate option there, as well as that frame fitting. So in case your video has a 16:9 aspect ratio, and then you would like you request a square aspect ratio, what happens? Do we crop? Do we stretch? All of those fitting modes could be specified under the new frame fitting. Again, name is on the table for debate.
I'm going to have to run. I have a commitment.
I also need to run. I think we're going to need to do a part 2 of this.
Yes, I expected as much.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, Roger, you may have to disappear here. I think let me just respond to a couple of other things on our live stream. Let's see. Notebook screen recording should have an option for highlighting mouse clicks. Yeah, boy. Yes. I don't know what we're doing with it. I mean, clearly screen recording just got more complicated because of new OS requirements. So question from RBS, will you support 3DFX Glide? I don't know what that is.
I'm looking it up now.
Okay. Will there be more advanced feature tracking for objects in videos?
Yes. Not immediately in 12.3 unless there is well, currently as well we could do something like video map time series or video map list that takes consecutive frames. But if you want to do bigger smoothing over multiple spans, I guess that's going to be coming.
Fair enough. Okay, RBS, can one do crossfades between videos? What kind of thing can one do for the transitions?
So you could handcraft yours using a video frame map with 2 inputs as a video, but we don't have any built-in functionality to do that.
Which we should have.
I agree. I think post 12.3, one big project for video is to have custom functions like potentially video assemble, video crossfade, and things like that implemented based on and using our video map function family.
Yeah. RBS, do you support super 8mm frame rates, FPS? What? Surely yes. I mean, isn't that just a slow frame rate? I don't know what the super 8 frame rate was, but it was something 16 frames per second or something. I think yes.
I also remember something slow, but I don't remember the exact number.
I see 18 or 24.
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem with that.
As I said, I tested up to like 1 frame per second. Everything seems to work. And it really depends mostly on the player that you'll use then to open the file.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying I don't really believe in these things. But I mean, I say this not completely inadvisedly because I know for things like image display, you say, oh, you can use any size of pixel in PostScript, for example, in the PostScript image operator. Well, except that there used to be bugs in it, right? Because whoever wants a single pixel, unless you're doing cellular automaton images, whoever wants a single pixel in an image that is, 1 millimeter across, for example, right? And so it's just not something well supported. And so people just have, there are lots of bugs with that. Okay, this 3D FX glide is apparently an old style shader architecture. So don't know. All right, let's just scan ahead just to get a sense of what we're going to see next time. Audio, image, okay. Boy, lots of cool stuff. Okay. Good. All right. Well, there's a question here. This came in from FIR and IIR implemented for audio processing.
Everything should be there. Yeah.
Yep.
What is the name of the function that does like final impulse response? How do you do that?
Oh, wow.
I mean, you can make
it's a while.
But you make the filter and then you
we do have list convol, we do have recurrence filter.
Yeah, recurrence
output
filter
response.
is the IIR.
Yep.
Say it again.
Recurrence filter should be the IIR filter.
Okay. God, this stupid thing. Okay, and you can use that in a video? No, in audio?
Yep, that's the last use case. It says sound, but audio is supported there too.
That's cool. Sandra is commenting on wanting to see speedups in rasterize.
Coming.
How?
This was really old code. We were compressing, then uncompressing data between rasterize is done by the front end. The kernel front end connection is being sped up. And then there were more inefficiencies that we got rid of.
Okay, so that's in 12.3.
Yes.
Cool. What's the factor of by how much is it faster?
Really depends on the size of the image and how much it was compressible. We're not compressing anything anymore. Before, if it was really not compressible, like a random image, we were spending a lot of time compressing it, but the size wasn't going down. So still sending a lot of data over the link and then uncompressing it again. Factors we're looking at mostly between 4 or 5 times faster is what we're seeing in 1,000 by 1,000, 2,000 by 2,000 images.
So if I do this, like, oh, that image is, it's probably really larger, right? Because that's style, right? Although the timing didn't increase much. I mean, let me do 500. Not enough memory able to rasterize that. Well, that's a different problem. Okay, 0.05, and if I now say that in the current version, that not enough memory thing, is that a front-end problem or what?
I'll have to
the frame
check
buffer
it.
Not large enough?
I think so. Unless it's really producing a huge image that now I doubt.
Oh, wow.
Yep, that's about what we're seeing across board. But again, it really varies how compressible it was.
Okay, Sanders should be happy. I'm happy too. I've needed this a bunch of times. Wow, that's really good. Should have done that a long time ago. Okay, and by the way, why did the rendering why did this rendering look different here?
Because you have, I think Rasterize is using the window formatting width or some such argument, image formatting width, your notebook with that magnification. If you evaluate that style, and evaluate it again, it's gonna be good.
Okay. Ethan is commenting we should rasterize in tiles to avoid these frame buffer memory problems. Yeah, well, let's find out what that actually is.
Sure.
What the actual issue is, because it might be something more bizarre than that. It might be to do with font rendering, because what I was asking for was an absolutely humongous font, and that may be something deep in the operating system. Okay, good stuff. Thanks all very much. Look forward to the next time, and thanks to folks on the live stream, and